and welcome to Synder Tutorials. In this video, we'll go through the key aspects you need to understand once you start working with daily summaries in Synder. We'll talk about the Summaries tab, its abilities and functions in particular, so stay tuned. When you're in Synder, you'll see a list of all transactions from the connected payment processors. The first important thing is that the table is not updated automatically, so you'll have to reload it to view the latest results. Second important thing is that there is the ability to perform bulk actions on transactions in the table. By hitting the square button, Synder will select all transactions available for actions. However, transactions marked as pending are not selectable yet, as the app is still processing them. Just give it some time and they will be ready for interaction. The app displays the number of selected transactions, which can be all transactions on the current page or a larger selection across multiple pages. For example, it currently shows that 25 transactions are selected, excluding the pending ones. This provides a clear understanding of the transactions you are working with. And you can also select all transactions on all pages, like this. So right now we have 82 transactions selected. It's also not necessary to work with everything in bulk. You can also apply filters to work with specific time frames, platforms, or transaction statuses. For instance, if you only want to work with Stripe transactions, you can filter the table to show only Stripe transactions and work with them directly. Similarly, you can select a specific date range, such as May transactions, to narrow down your focus. Now let's explore the actions you can perform in Synder. Once you select transactions, you have the option to sync them, which means putting the data to your books. You can also choose to roll back, which deletes the data from the books, leaving no trace. Another action is to resync, which is a combination of these three, so that's a rollback, refresh, and sync back to the books. And another action is refresh one, which updates the data within Synder, specifically the summaries themselves. It's important to know that the refresh option only works for transactions that are ready to sync. If a transaction has already been synced, you need to use the rollback function to refresh it before syncing it back to the books. The sync status column indicates whether a summary has been synced to your books. Different statuses provide more information about each summary. For example, pending means that the summary is not yet available for any actions. Synced indicates that the summary is already in the books. Partially synced means that only a portion of the transactions has been synced, and the reasons for this will be explained shortly. Ready to sync signifies that everything is ready to be synced, so you can work with those transactions. Ideally, once all pending transactions are imported, they will be shown as ready to sync, enabling you to select and sync them in bulk. You may also encounter failed status, indicating that something wasn't right as the app wasn't able to put the summary to the books. The most common reason for failure is insufficient mapping. You can open a summary and see that it's exactly the case, so you can click on the mapping option to fix it. And once the mapping is done, you can come back to the summary and you'll see that all the lines were mapped. Once this is resolved, you can resync the transaction and it will be successfully added to the books. The mapping works in such a way that if something new appears on your or your client's payment processor, it won't be automatically matched to some default categories. Instead, it will just fail transactions to inform you that you have to fulfill the missing mappings. And if something changes overnight, you'll be really in control of how the books are done. So in terms of the sync status, it's pretty clear. Now let's see what the transaction status is. Transaction statuses determine if all transactions for a given day have been included in the summary. You can see fetching status, which indicates that the summary is currently being processed, so there is no need to do anything with it. It will be finished automatically. Fully fetched means that all transactions for the day have been imported, allowing you to proceed with syncing. Just like this, fully fetched and ready to sync, meaning all transactions for this day will be synced. On the other hand, partially fetched signifies that only a portion of the day's transactions have been imported to Synder. The rest are awaiting confirmation from the payment processor, or may have other platform-specific reasons, but basically it means that not everything for this day is yet in Synder. When you open a summary, you can view the summary lines, which provide the preview of the summary that is going to be synced to your books. If you close it, you'll be able to see included in the summary, which will show you the list of all all transactions that were included so far. And you'll see pending transactions here. In my case, it's just one pending transaction, but it's not yet confirmed by the payment processor, Amazon. So right now, it's not included into the summary. You can either record it manually or wait till Amazon finalizes this transaction and Synder will be able to include it into the summary, so its status will be fully fetched. So our advice is to work with fully fetched summaries only. Or if you want to make your books faster, do work with partially fetched, but make sure that you manually enter all of the not synced transactions to the books to have everything completed here. If you sync the partially fetched transaction, it will say partially synced, which means that only part of this data is in your books now. The rest is here, and you'll also be able to see it here. And a few more remaining things. Firstly, under this tab, in your books, you'll be able to see all of the transactions that are right now in your books. So ideally, if the integration is working properly, you will be able to see just green, fully fetched, and synced statuses. And you can see the transactions in your books just opening them directly via this link. And you also have In Synder tab. In Synder basically shows you what is right now in Synder but not in your books. So any failed or ready to sync or pending transactions will be shown here. Right now, they're only in Synder, not in your books yet. So you'll have to do something with them in order to put them in your books. And you can see the details to preview the insights of those transactions and see what's going on here. Also, if we get back to the summary itself, inside of every summary, you'll be able to see the balance cost. So in this case, it's 2. That means that this summary only had 2 sales throughout the day. And this number tells you how many syncs will be deducted from your sync balance. Sync balance depends on your plan. It refreshes month over month, so make sure that your plan covers all of your clients or your own sales throughout the months and keep track of this balance inside of the transaction. Now you know how to work with the Summaries tab knowingly and efficiently. You can also find plenty of useful guides and video tutorials in our knowledge base, and for any additional help, just apply to us via chat, phone or email, as we're available almost 24/7. Have a good journey with Synder!